What's the dumbest thing you believed as a kid? When I was pretty young, probably about 5 years old, I met the Black Power Ranger and got a picture of him signed. In the picture, you could see that he was missing his middle finger, and my mom told me it was because he had flipped his mom off, so she cut it off. I believed it until I was about 20 years old when my mom told me she had lied about it and didn't actually know what happened. Growing up, I told so many people this guy's mom cut his finger off. Once I was playing with some toys and my mom was talking on the phone to her friend. I guess they were talking about kids growing up and having families someday because my mom puts her hand over the phone and asked me if I wanted kids someday and if I wanted boys or girls. I gave it some thought and said that I wanted one boy and one girl. For the longest time after this, I thought that it had been completely decided, like my mom was just on the phone with whoever you call to place an order for kids, and my order had been finalized. When I was a kid, my mom explained to me that we all had belly buttons because that's how our moms fed us before we were born. So I thought when you got pregnant, your belly button opened up and you just put whatever you wanted to down there, like I thought women were just shoving chicken legs in their belly buttons. Plot twist, I'm a postpartum nurse now. When I was around 5, I understood that movies had actors who were just playing characters, but I still thought that the events in the movie actually had to happen in real life. For example, I thought that the actress who played the Wicked Witch in Wizard of Oz actually had a condition that made her melt if she touched water, that she'd avoided water her whole life up to that point, but that she was really committed to the role. I used to think that laugh tracks were somehow real life, like I was hearing everyone else laughing who was watching the same show I was. In hindsight, this is really stupid. Obviously, the sound is coming from the speakers. But growing up, we only had TV at my grandma's place, and I remember laughing really loud when the laugh track came on so all her neighbors would think I got the joke too. Hoo boy, I've been waiting for a question like this. So I grew up near a nuclear power plant, which 4-year-old me thought was a cloud factory. My parents didn't take me to church, but I knew that people went to church to worship God, who created the world. I was also a huge fan of the Care Bears at that time, who lived in the clouds. What do those 3 random tidbits about myself have to do with this question? Well, 4-year-old me came to the conclusion that the Care Bears go to church and worship the nuclear power plant as the creator of their world. That was perfect logic to my tiny toddler brain. My great-uncle did a low-rent Superman cosplay for me when I was visiting at around 6 years old. And by low rent, I mean blue jeans with red underwear over top and a blue bath towel as a cape. I realized all of this several years later. At the time, I was convinced it was really Superman visiting us in rural Arkansas, and I carried that surety into 2nd grade, where I got into a fight with a classmate who claimed Superman was a fictional character. I thought a baby just randomly appeared in a woman's womb. I stayed awake, crying about it because I didn't want to become pregnant. Same, oh my God. And at one point I somehow got the idea that stepping on grass was what made you pregnant, that there were little thorn things too small to notice in the grass, and they took years, but they traveled up to your belly and made a baby in there. But the years could depend. That's why people had babies at different ages. I was so scared that it would happen to me, that maybe I just stepped on a faulty thorn that only had like 5 years on it, and I would get pregnant at 8. I had no idea where I got this idea from. My younger sister convinced me that milk was just cow piss. Oh, this is something that just bit me in the ass last year. I grew up in a very small town. One of my friends was from a city. I was over at his place and his mom gave us a pomegranate. I've never seen or even heard of this before. Well, he told me not to eat the seeds because they were poison. Last year, my wife bought a pomegranate for my son who was interested in trying new types of food. I said to my wife, just be sure he doesn't eat the seeds. She looked at me funny. I said they really should put a warning label on them because the seeds are poisonous. She broke down laughing. I Googled, hats off to you, Sandy. You got me good. It was 30+ years. Once before I was old enough to read, my dad and I were waiting for my mom who was donating clothes to the local Goodwill, and apparently I wouldn't stop yelling. My dad told me she was in the Shouting Kid store looking for Trade Me In for a kid that didn't yell so much, never shouted in the car again. Also didn't trust that Goodwill face logo for many years. When I was young, my parents told me that if I kept leaving the fridge open, then I would freeze the whole world, and then no one would like me. That all bald men were kidnappers. No idea where it came from. I really don't think I was kidnapped as a child, but if I was, it was definitely a bald man that did it. My dad also made me believe there were little gnomes working in ATM and vending machines. My dad told me he was an alien. I was super into outer space. I told all my friends my dad was an alien. Well, wasn't till I was an older teen I realized he meant an alien from France living in the United States. I felt dumb as rocks, but I am an alien. You just didn't ask what kind. That we had to change our names during different stages of our lives, like we have a toddler's name, a teenager's name, and an adult's name. When I was about 4, my older sister told me that since the population of Japan was so high, Japanese people slept sideways on their beds so they could fit more people on every bed. I believed it until I went to a sleepover at 13 and suggested that we sleep Japanese style on the bed so everyone could fit. 2 gems from my youth. 1. I used to think my testicles were the eggs of my future children, like one day they would hatch and I'd have 2 kids. 2. I thought safe sex meant someone left their clothes on. Not sure if this was just a United Kingdom thing, but as a child I had some of those gooey jelly alien toys that came in plastic eggs, and the big rumor on the playground at the time was, if you put a boy alien and girl alien in the same egg and put it in the fridge, they would make a new baby alien overnight. I told my parents about it and told them I was doing it. While in bed, my parents added the extra baby alien overnight. So when I woke up and found the 3rd alien, I lost it, went into school and told everyone. For years I swore blind it was true and really happened. It was a very heartbreaking day when I realized what had happened. Reminds me of the time when my parents would sneak miniature food items into my dollhouse and say that the dolls had been grocery shopping. When I was younger, our garage always had a very distinct smell. My parents told my siblings and I that the smell in our garage was the smell of burnt tires because my dad would work on cars and dirt bikes as a hobby. Being the middle child, we always tend to find out the family secrets whether we want to or not. Fast forward to when I am 15 years old. I standing in a parking lot with my mother and 2 girls I was in a quince with. As we were all waiting in this parking lot for our friend who was having the quince, I started to smell burnt tires. I said to my mom that it smelt like burnt tires. My mom and the 2 girls all started chuckling. I was confused as to what was funny, and the 2 girls said to me that I was not smelling burnt tires. My mom eventually told me what that smell was, and she just tried to convince me my smelling was off. I still put 2 and 2 together that night. In short, I was 15 years old when I found out that my dad was a huge pothead and would just smoke pot all the time in our garage. Also, burnt tires and weed should not smell the same. That every time you learned something new, you got a new wrinkle in your brain. Before color was invented, the whole world was in black and white, not just TVs. In sports, I used to think whatever number the player wore was how old that player was. When I saw a picture of Babe Ruth, my reaction was, that's one big 3-year-old. I believed mothers breastfed regular milk with a right boob, and, get this, chocolate milk with left boob. I thought the 4th of July fireworks were for my birthday, which is July 2nd. When I first hit puberty at 9 years old, I was terrified of getting a boner in class. I'm a female. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Write in the comments what you believed in as a child. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out new super interesting videos. And I also suggest you to watch our other videos.